Well, it's a term that we hear more and more these days, so-called imposter syndrome. The author of the best-selling 50 Shades of Grey books, so that's E.L. James, she's revealed that even selling 165 million books didn't help shift her self-doubt. And she's not alone. Research shows that the majority of women have experienced imposter syndrome, and they're much more likely to get it than blokes. But what exactly is it, imposter syndrome? Well, it's the overwhelming sense that you kind of don't deserve to be wherever you've landed up, whether it's personally or professionally. You're just kind of blagging it, and you're going to get found out one of these days. Judi, that's something you've struggled with, isn't it?
Do you know what? Yeah, I definitely feel I have had imposter syndrome. I think it depends on your background. For me, I've experienced things where I felt like I'm not supposed to be in that place, or growing up, I never thought I could be somebody on TV, and whether that's because of my race, because I'm a plus-size girl, because I was working class. So when you're now in it and, you know, you're having those great moments of success, you question whether you should be here.
How big a component is race in all that for you?
Well, for me, you know, my lived experience, it is. When I was growing up, representation wasn't there as much as it is now, although we've still got work to do. There wasn't a Judi Love when I was young, so it really made me second-guess any kind of, like, skills or talents or gift or even just passion that I had to entertain. So then when you are that one black woman in a space where it maybe not from the industry, but it's projected that you're not supposed to be in there, you still question yourself, and you still in that moment think, like, wow, is this really me?
So even when other people are celebrating you, it's you and it's your internal dialogue saying, I'm not good enough.
Because it has been embedded into you. If you've been that person who's been told that this is not really for you, then when you're there, you always question it.
Ian, I mean, you come across as a really confident bloke.
Yeah.
Do you ever suffer from it?
I think on a level everyone does, especially when you're in an unconventional employment as well. I think where I grew up, you were... Do you know what I mean? There were certain jobs that I thought I would end up doing, and this isn't one of them. So, and like you were saying, representation, basically, there's always external factors at play. Like, on a subconscious level, if you're in a place where there's not other people that look like you, you are going to, deep down inside, think, oh, maybe I don't belong. When I went to look at universities when I was younger, I went to, like, even, like, some certain universities I would go and there'd be all these, like, middle-class posh people, like, jumpers round their shoulders and all that. And I was with my dad in a Reebok top he'd painted the house in. And I was just like, I don't think I'm meant to be here.
I've tried to flip the narrative because I realised that I was prone to it, or maybe I would have called it more inferiority complex sometimes.
You?
Yes, I know.
Tough girl from the north.
No, I know, but it's more... as you say, you know, something about what we do for a living. And if I was around sort of like Oxbridge-educated actors who'd all been in the Cambridge Footlights and had all been in the Royal Shakespeare Company, I knew deep down that I was as good an actress as them, but because of their education and the way they spoke, I would sometimes start to suffer. So I flipped the narrative and just thought, you know, really did some internal talking to myself. Because you didn't go to university and you said...
No, I mean, I'm not playing the poor me card. Why should I? But I've had imposter syndrome all my grown-up life. Wow. All my life. It's with me now. I get it when I'm driving in to do Good Morning Britain. I'm thinking on the way in, why am I doing this? I'm sure you're thinking the same. Why is it?
Not at all, Richard.
You know, I do think I shouldn't be doing this. I shouldn't be, you know, sort of co-hosting the breakfast show in Britain. I'm the local newspaper lad, you know, from Romford, Essex. And I have to talk to myself, and that actually gets me out of it.
Do you talk to yourself in the Romford accent? Can you do it? He done it to me before the show.
I talk... Oh, yeah, well, I talk in two voices. I do. I'm not putting it on. This is the voice that I grew up with, right, in Romford, Essex. And
you say 33,000?
I'll say 33,000, darling. Right, Treacle?
Oh, I love the darling on the end, didn't you?
Imagine if you'd done Good Morning Britain like, all right, everyone, welcome to the news.
I love it. Please do that, Richard. Please do the next link.
Just for you, honey.
Sorry, Richard.
No, but seriously, I do find that it acts as a spur, because it makes you work harder. It makes you try harder. If you're not brimming with self-confidence and certainty that, hey, you're the best thing since sliced bread, you try that much harder, just to prove to yourself that you can do it. And what I say to myself when I'm driving in, I say simply, Richard, you've done this thousands of times before, and it's gone all right, so shut up.
And obviously with social media now as well, there's so many people to drag you back down to those places. You've got to try even harder, haven't you, you know,
You
bringing
know
up
what,
our kids to say, be who you want to be. It's hard.
I think what you were saying was really, that really touches a nerve, and I think that's what's, like you're saying, helped me to keep focus on what I'm doing, is that sometimes if you are the only one in the room, celebrate that, because you will open a way for others, or that will empower you to remind you that your unique self is needed.
I think you can just... I think it's a good thing to say to kids and everyone. You should work really... That's why hard work's really important. Because if you work really hard, and if you ever feel like you are an imposter, think back to all the hard work you've done and think,
That's
well, no,
what I
I've worked hard, I deserve to be here.
It's
My
so
ass
true.
off. Absolutely. Right, now, from feeling underqualified to pretending to be overqualified, lying through your teeth, basically. Is it ever all right to tell a lie to get a job? Well, apparently 1 in 3 of us have lied. We've lied our teeth out in job interviews. I shall drop back into a C pronunciation. I know you of old in this. We've known each other for decades. You lied to get your big break role in Soldier Soldier, didn't you?
Well, yes, Richard, I did, Flower. It was many, many years ago when I was doing Soldier Soldier.
Go on, tell us what you did.
That is how people think that I used to talk. I never did a Soldier Soldier. Yes, as actors, you've always got to sort of lie a little bit because there's so much competition. And so this is in the early 90s, and I got an audition to go for a series called Soldier Soldier, which had already been on telly for 2 series. And I was under the impression it was for a small part in 1 episode, and I was very hungover. So I went along, not really being that into it, thinking, oh, it's 1 episode. I mean, I should be grateful, but I wasn't in the best mood. Anyway, when I got into the room, I realised from what they were saying that this was a new regular. And they said to me, you know, we're very keen to talk to you, Denise, but the only problem is we know that you're from Newcastle and we don't want any other Geordies in it because we've got Robson Green and Rosie Rowell, who are a very strong Geordie couple, and we know that you're from there. And suddenly, my friend Rosemary, who was from Parbold in Wigan, had come with me and was sat outside. I just suddenly took her whole identity and I went, well, I'm not actually from Newcastle, right? I'm from Parbold in Wigan. And I said, I was born in Newcastle, but then I came down and lived in Wigan and I stole Rose's. And this woman said, are you near that little river in Parbold? And I was going, you know, thinking, yes, that's where I grew up. So Rose could never go up for the series because she had no personality because I'd stolen the whole thing. So as actors, it is important. If they say, can you drive? You should say yes. Can you horse ride? The one thing I can do. You should say yes, and then
fix it.
Yeah, I understand that, especially with the driving and stuff. I mean, I had an interview one time, and they asked, as we was there, like, you know, this role requires someone to be like quite flexible with their hours. I was like, yeah, of course, I've got all the flexibility in the world. I mean, I didn't. I was a single parent, so I used to bring the kids with me to work. And, no, I did. I had to hide them in the office until I got caught. But I think my biggest lie is I got a job in the November. I had the interview, and then it took about 5 months. And when we started, I was pregnant.
Yeah.
So I hid my pregnancy.
How'd you do that?
I mean, like, thank God for the big tuk-tuks, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just helped to hide the belly. And the manager at the time brought me in the office, sat me down and said, yeah, I made some homemade bread for you. You're probably hungry when you're having cravings. And I was like, what do you mean? I don't know what you're talking about. And she was like, yeah, let's do the health and safety form, because obviously you're about 5-6 months pregnant. But she was absolutely amazing and very supportive. You got to do what you got to do to feed your family.
I'll tell you what, you wouldn't have got past me.
Really?
I don't know what it is, but I can really tell quite early on when someone's expecting. I remember once I was in a restaurant and Gabby Roslin walked in.
Oh, God,
and she'd just been on a major diet and it was all over the papers and she lost a lot of weight. And she came in with a mum and 2 female friends and they sat down and she was stick thin. And I went across like you do at the table. Hello, how you doing? Had a little chat. And then I suddenly heard myself say, Gabby, are you pregnant? And she looked at me and said, well, thanks a lot. I've just lost all this weight. And I said, no, oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know why. I said, we had a little laugh and I went back to the table. That night, about 6 o'clock, the phone goes at home. Pick it up, it's Gabby. She said, you witch. I said, what? She said, I am pregnant. She said, I only discovered this morning. I weed on the stick and I'm pregnant. And no one else, how did you know? Are you going through my bins? I said, oh, I don't know, but I just kind of...
How weird.
Wow.
But very quickly, Im, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, comedians lie everywhere, really. every poster of a comedian, if it's got little dots, ellipses in it, that means we've cut out the bad bit.
Of the review.
So if someone says, like, great show, ... funny, basically it's like, great show, but could do with being a little bit more funny.
So there you go. Fib to succeed.